Allow me to start with a very short update on the events of last night in America, or last evening in America, but it was already morning here in the Philippines. So as you know, after the burial of Qasem Soleimani in the stampede there, and of course over 80 people got killed in that chaos of the burial site, we know that the Iranians, they decided that there has to be a way for them to save face and to appease the demand of the people for revenge. And believe it or not, they used one of their southern provinces on the border with Iraq, and they launched a few missiles from an airbase, Iranian airbase from Iran. They launched ballistic missiles all the way towards Iraqi territory where there are US bases there. Of the rockets that fell, 10 of them fell inside a US base called El Assad, north of Baghdad. And we know that one fell in Erbil, and 4 missed their target completely. And immediately after those 2 waves of rocket launching, the Iranians reported heavy casualties to the American forces. They started sailing with their imagination and started reporting that at first it was 20 and then 50, and now they're saying 80 casualties to the Americans, where in reality, let me tell you what happened. The Iranians notified the Iraqi government of their soon strike. The Iraqi government notified the Americans of the Iranian soon strike. And the Americans notified their soldiers of this soon strike. And therefore, everybody braced in all of those places for the incoming rockets. And of course, there was almost, first of all, there was no casualties. There was damage to some equipment that was not secured on time, but that's it, ladies and gentlemen. It's all a fiasco. It's all a joke. This is all a facade. And I will even tell you more. The strike of last week, where they killed an American civilian at the end of, I think it was if I'm not mistaken, the end of December. That strike was way more severe than this one. That strike was without any notification, and that strike killed an American and wounded American soldiers. So what in reality happened last night is actually something more symbolic. In Israel, by the way, they say that if people knew that will sum up the response of the Iranians to the killing of Soleimani would have been killed earlier, probably. That's how much we believe that the response of the Iranians was just a show. What bothered me more than everything is the fact that the US media was quoting the Iranian reports on US casualties and did not wait for their own military to give a report on it. It took at least an hour until President Trump, who was briefed on all that happened, tweeted, "All is good, and so far so good. We are assessing the damage." Now so what I'm trying to say here is that this whole thing was blown out of proportion. This whole thing was deliberately blown out of proportion in order to feed the rhetoric in America as to why this whole strike on Soleimani was a mistake. In reality, not only that it was not a mistake, the Iranians right now are just so defeated and confused. Let me tell you something, folks. America restored the deterrence, and Iran may have saved face last night, but is left without the number 1 terrorist in the world. Now let me explain. when Israel heard that Soleimani was killed, there was such a sigh of relief. Why? Because there was never, in the history of the short-lived state of Israel, there's never been someone who has been dedicated more to the annihilation of Israel than Soleimani. And the whole Islamic revolution of Iran basically was using him as a contractor to facilitate that on the ground. So they lost someone whom they appointed in 1999 to be the general contractor of how to destroy Israel and how to spread Shiite Islam and how to defeat Western culture and eventually take over Saudi Arabia and declare Shia as the only Islam in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the story of last night. It seems like that led to the foreign minister of Iran to tweet right after, hey, we did what we needed to do according to our right in the UN charter, that we have the right to respond proportionately, and now we're fine. Everybody says we're fine. Now, of course, the militias will try to say, hey, we are going to revenge the killing of El Muhandis, who was our commander. So we're not going to listen to what Tehran is telling us. Tehran will say, well, they're going to strike, but they're out of our control. You know, this is the old game of terrorists. They've always done that. We feel that with the Islamic Jihad and Hamas. One fires a rocket when the other says, well, I didn't know. All that, we know that. But ladies and gentlemen, everybody can live with that one. All I can tell you is Iran understands today that Iran cannot act alone and has no power, no capacity, and no strength to do something without the backing of a major superpower such as Russia. And I can also tell you, folks, that if that was not enough, during this whole thing, a Ukrainian airliner, a 737 of the Ukraine airlines, crashed right after takeoff from Tehran, and the Iranians refused to hand the black box to the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians are saying, oh, there's nothing wrong with our 737. It was perfectly fit to fly. I mean, it was good. And the Iranians said, well, there was a malfunction. There's a technical issue upon takeoff. Well, if that's the case, then give us the black box. Let us check what's going on. Ladies and gentlemen, the Iranians may hide something about shooting down the Ukrainian airliner. And in a very interesting way, I would say this: if you want to understand what happened, go to the passenger manifest and see who was on board the plane. That may help you to solve the problem. And if that's not enough, a magnitude 4.5 earthquake hit the Bushehr nuclear reactor. And they are assessing the damage right now. But hey, this is the second time within 2 weeks that an earthquake is hitting that place. The Iranians, they are just, I mean, they had a stampede disaster after they lost their dearest general. Now the strike was a joke. Now an airliner crashed right outside of Tehran and might have been shut down by the Iranians, and they are trying to cover up. And an earthquake for the second time in 2 weeks. They don't even know where all of these things come upon them. And well, let's put it this way: he who watches Israel neither slumbers nor sleep. And I can tell you that the more they speak about their intention to annihilate Israel, the more they suffer. Now, I hope that we covered all of that. I hope you understand that I am not too nervous about the Iranians.